Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this lovely early morning video on the Formula 3. Far too early, it has to be said. Woke up at 6:45, was it? On a Sunday? My goodness, disgraceful. We have got lots to get into though. The sprint and the feature race for the Formula 3 in Monaco. And that feature race that we just had then was an incredibly strange one where it was massively chaotic. All sorts of just random stuff happened, incidents up and down the grid, but at the exact same time, nothing happened. How strange that was. We'll get into it in just a little bit. We've got to go to the sprint first. But before that, remember to like and subscribe. And of course, a huge shout out to the members: Dakota, The Joyous Shade, Ryan Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Felipe Dick, Flandy Skick, No Eat on Sandwiches, and Sarah Jowett. Let's get started though with the sprint. We had Giuzzi on pole with Stenshorn alongside him, and then, immediately the weird stuff just starts to happen. That kind of affected F3 throughout all this weekend. Just weird things happening all over the place, but not really happening in the top 10. And here it starts with Dominguez, who stops on track at the end of the formation lap at Rascasse, and just the car isn't going. Then he's stopping in the pit lane, just on the pit lane entry, can't get going. This is at the end of the formation lap, and I thought, well, for sure what they'll do here is an additional formation lap, because those who are at the front row have now been parked there for a hell of a lot longer than usual. Those tyres will be going cold. We thought, okay, we'll have another formation lap, they'll get the order resorted, and they'll just go for it. But they didn't. They just went for the start of the race immediately, and I don't know if that is an additional factor to why Giuzzi's start was so bad, or maybe yes, Giuzzi had a bad start as it was, but Giuzzi falls from pole down to P4. Stenshorn takes the lead immediately. Dominguez somehow managed to actually get going and took part in this race, but not for long, because he has a crash with Headley at Mirabeau. This brings out the safety car pretty much instantly. The replay shows that it's so strange. The crash that takes out Dominguez and Headley is actually a crash between Ramos and Lacorte. So Ramos hits Lacorte, and then Dominguez and Headley were kind of as collateral, just coming around the corner and went into both of them as well. Noel Leon is also out after going side by side with Voisin through the hairpin. Lacorte is out as well. The only person who managed to be okay, I think, was Ramos was also out. So after one lap, we had 5 DNFs in the sprint race, and Stenshorn leads from Topoin. Pole sitter Giuzzi down in P4. Nicholas Solov is also in the pits and looks to be out as well with a technical issue, but he comes back out after a couple laps there. So safety car ends on lap 9, and it wasn't a great restart from Stenshorn. He put the power on out coming out of Rascasse, nearly lost the rear end and ended up in the wall, but is able to keep the lead down from there. Voisin taps the back of Boa, and Stenshorn has then pulled out a 2-second lead at the front after not very long at all. So despite a bad restart, managed to keep control of the race from there. But it was kind of this back and forth race where Stenshorn would build up a lead, then Topoin would cut it down again but wouldn't be able to get past, then Stenshorn would build the lead again. So Topoin cuts down the lead almost instantly, Stenshorn making a mistake somewhere. Voisin was all over the back of Boyer but couldn't get past. Stromstead has a puncture after a very ambitious move on Brad Benavidez. By the way, Brad Benavidez is back. I never saw that coming. I don't remember when it happened. Maybe he was back last weekend. But he's a guy who was in Formula 3, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago? Didn't do very well. Moved to F2 2 years ago. Didn't do very well. Disappeared off everyone's radar and is now back in Formula 3, and he's not doing very well. Boyer still holding up all 3 Rodin cars towards the end of the race because it's Monaco and no one can get past. And as we cross the line, Stenshorn wins from Topoin, Van Hoopen in 3rd, Giuzzi 4th, Tramnitz in 5th, Charlie Wirtz in 6th, Kamara in 7th, Boyer in 8th, Sharp in 9th, and Callum Voisin in P10. Let's go across now to the feature race this morning, which had Solov on pole and Blinsky alongside him. Now, there was quite big implications for our championship this weekend, because Kamara, who is the championship leader, who went into this race with 3 pole positions in a row, in fact, in this race, is in 11th. A bad qualifying for him, mixed in with a grid drop as well. World Championship leader down in 11th. Tim Tramnitz is second in the championship, but he starts this race down in 6th. And then the third place in the championship was Noah Stromstead, who of course had a good race in the sprint, but he starts this race in 15th place. So it was kind of all over the place. Sorry, not Stromstead. Stromstead didn't have a good sprint race. It was Stenshorn. I mixed the two of them up. I do apologise. But yeah, Stromstead down in 15th. So in terms of our championship leaders, not a great one here, which means that those guys who are lower in the championship have a chance to kind of pull that back a little bit. None of them could have taken the championship lead because those top 3 were all within 25 points. But for further down the line, there was quite the close battle here. Also very interesting on our commentary team this week, and maybe it wasn't his first outing, but it was the first time I noticed that Gary Parfitt was on the commentary, who, for fans of my age, will remember him as this guy who was always the next big thing, who never really arrived. If you throw your mind back to 2007, when Lewis Hamilton was given the McLaren seat, apparently at the time it was between Lewis Hamilton and Gary Parfitt, between who was going to get that McLaren seat, and he was a McLaren reserve driver for years into that time of the Hamilton-Button era of McLaren, and always this guy who had tremendous pace but never really got the chance in F1. Very good in DTM as well, but yeah, very good on the commentary here. And as we get going on this race, Solov is able to keep the lead. Mary Boyer does cut Sandoval but stays in 3rd place, does give a little bit back, so no penalty for him there, although it looked like they were very lenient on that first corner, on the first lap. I can't remember who it was, but someone just decided, I'm not even going to try and take the corner, and just cut straight across and seemed to get away with it from there. No massive changes on lap 1. Ugo Chukwu was the biggest gainer, going from 14th to 12th. Del Pino is in the pits at this point. Looked like a mechanical DNF at first, but we see a replay later on of a collision between him and Marinancelli. Del Pino does come back out onto the track, though, and for a lot of the race is like 3 or 4 laps down, and even when the chaos starts to happen and lots of people are DNFing, he's still on there as still in the race, but is so many laps down, the people who were DNF actually finished ahead of him. So not a great race for Del Pino by any stretch of the imagination. Brad Benavidez gets a 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. We see the Corte is out of the race on lap 16. Then we have Noel Leon in the wall on lap 18. This brings out the safety car. And now this is when it just all goes to hell. It just all goes wrong here, because Charlie Wirtz, it seems like Wirtz is the one who had the collision with Leon, which led to Leon being out of the race. Charlie Wirtz reports of a puncture. He says that the car is reporting a puncture, but he can't see a puncture. And from the outside, we can't see a puncture either. We can see very evident front wing damage. His team tells him to come in to the pits and get it fixed. The safety car ends on that lap, and he does not come into the pits to get it fixed. We get a great getaway from Solov at the front of the grid, but what we really care about is Charlie Wirtz, who is massively struggling, no pace at all, and a huge queue following behind him. He's defending like hell, with what seems like only 3 wheels and half a front wing. Then coming out of the tunnel into the Nouvelle Chicane, he has this massive lockup. He's side by side, has a massive lockup, keeps on going. It's very obvious. Sorry, no, I was trying to mix the words obvious and evidence there. Very obvious that he needs to pit because this is not going well. And he just doesn't pit again. And he just goes for another lap, still not pitting, and then at the top of the hill, he ends up in the wall. Meanwhile, Badoa is also in the wall at the Monaco Tunnel entry. This brings out a second safety car. And then that safety car only comes out for a few laps. Safety car ends on lap 24. More chaos happens because Rafael Camara, our championship leader, he is also out of the race because his back right wheel just fell off. It's just rolling down the Rascasse. He's at the pit entry with only 3 wheels on the wagon, and we see a replay, and it just flew through the air, got hit by the catch fences there on the side, but just utter madness. And you see, like I said, it was chaos. We had one driver with literally 3 wheels on his car. We had another who had a puncture that he didn't know he had a puncture. We've got another one in the wall, but this makes no difference, basically, to our top 10 whatsoever. Because as we cross the line, it's the same as it always was. Solov in the lead, he wins the race, breaks the record for the most F3 races won since this new version of F3 came into existence. Blinsky in second, Boyer in third, Voisin in fourth, Tramnitz in fifth, Van Hoopen in sixth, Powen in seventh, Stenshorn in eighth, Sharp in ninth, and Giuzzi in 10th. Like I said, couldn't really make any changes in terms of the top of our championship for this weekend, but it's great news for Tim Tramnitz, who now jumps up to second place in the Formula 3 Championship. He's on 64 points from Kamara in first on 77. Solov as well, obviously, who won this race. He's now in third on 61 points. Noah Stromstead is dropped down to fourth. To Powen in fifth. So yeah, overall, a pretty good race weekend. Now, Tramnitz, of course, he was second already, but he's cut down the lead that Kamara has had after Kamara had a fantastic start to the season, especially in the feature races, 3 poles in a row, 2 wins and 3 podiums. But yeah, not a great weekend for him here this weekend. So yeah, Formula 3 Championship still very much open, but yes, I think this weekend it had the chaos. It just lacked the chaos actually meaning anything, if that makes any sense. You know, when you want chaos, you want it to affect the people who are leading the championship, which it did for Kamara, I guess, but he was already quite low. You want it to affect the guys in the front of the race, but maybe not. I hope this is not an indication of how the rest of today will go, because that was not the best race in the world. We have got Formula 2 coming up very, very soon, so we will see how that goes. So keep an eye out for that one, and of course Formula 1 later on today with the 2 mandatory pit stops. Will that make a difference in the action and the entertainment? We shall have to wait and see. Until then, though, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.